Welcome to Primetime, everybody. We are back with our top 12 horror movies of 2022 list. I'm your host, Hunter Chambliss. I'm joined by my co host, Chad and Carrie. How's it going, guys?
Going fantastic.
Yeah.
Very excited. Very great year for horror last year. Last year, right? We're
Yep,
in a new
last
year
year.
now. Looking forward to more. We just had Megan come out. I don't think any of us have seen it yet,
I'm
but
seeing it tomorrow.
yeah, we might as well. Very excited for that one, and for because there's a lot of horror coming out this year that
hmm
sounds excellent. So, but we're doing 2022, and I'm very excited. How does this work, Hunter?
So, we each got our top 12 horror movies in order from 12 to 1. I will start and give my number 12, and then we'll talk about it. If it's on Chad and Carrie's list, but like further down on their list, they will tell me what number, and then we'll still talk about it in the same order. And we'll go myself first, Chad, and Carrie with our number 12s. All right, so we will start with myself with number 12 on my list, which is Terrifier 2.
Ooh.
It barely made my list. I really like this movie. I liked it more than the first one. I feel like they learned a good lesson about giving their characters more development, and it works out because you do care about our main lead. The problem is it's 2 hours and 18 minutes, and some of the gore is very hard to get through, but I I really enjoyed this movie, but I think you could shave easily 15 minutes off this movie and make it even better. Chad and Carrie?
Yeah, Hunter. No, I agree with you exactly 100%. I almost put this at number 12. And then I didn't. It's exactly number 13 right now. Like it was actually really, really good. Except I do agree exactly what you said. It is too long. And I would probably argue maybe even 30 minutes you could shave off of this thing because I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, like horror movies generally, I feel like are, like the best kinds are tend to be like around like 90 minutes, unless you're doing some sort of like really like high concept like story or it's part sci-fi or something like that, and you have a lot of great concepts you're trying to explore. But this one, like you said, is mostly just like kill after kill, which is not bad. That's what people go to that movie like for. And I
Mhm.
think some of the kills were very, very gruesome and still like stuck with me. Like some of it looked a little fake at parts, which kind of played into the camp. But
Mhm.
then the way they did it, like so practically, and like they took their time to really set up these like elaborate like kills, and the way Art the Clown behaves and just runs in real quick and starts doing something else that you're like, oh, that's even worse than what you were doing before. And like we were talking about the bedroom scene.
Oh.
That's the one that I think stays with me the most, and it's not just because of like what happens to the person, but it's just about like seeing them before, like just being all cute, trying to like talk to the friends and stuff. They're actually really doing like a good like setup for the characters, and then you don't want to see these guys. It's not like your average like slasher where you don't care if the people die. This one I think you care more, and you want to see people survive. And I don't know. I thought they did a really great job with it. And it's really cool that it's one of those like under the radar movies. Like I'd never really heard of Terrifier before this one, and then Terrifier 2 came out, and it kind of like was a huge success for like a really great indie film. It kind of reminds me of like Halloween a little bit, although nowhere near as good as Halloween. Sorry, I went on long.
Yeah, so this wasn't in my top 12. I would say it actually, even if I looked at my top 15, it would be just outside of my top 15. But it was way better than I expected. Because all we had heard, or at least all I had heard about this movie beforehand was like, oh, it's so gory. It's so gory. There's so many great kills. And I was like, I enjoy some gore, but I don't enjoy movies where it's just the point of the entire movie is gore. Like I need a
Yeah.
little bit of story, and this actually had a lot of story to it. And the gore was, I was like very hesitant to watch it until we talked to actually Chad's sister's partner, and Chad's sister, and they were like, no, it's like an 80s like horror, like it's kind of funny. The gore is kind of like in that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of actually way more my speed.
Mhm.
So I actually really enjoyed it. Like the scene with the sunglasses, I thought was hilarious. I thought the little
Joke shop.
clown was amazing.
Oh yeah.
Incredible. She looks so scary, and she's actually kind of funny too.
Yeah.
And looking at the little girl actress, I was like, wow, okay, she looks like so normal. It's crazy to side by side.
And the goal was actually nothing that, and the reason also I had been nervous to watch this was like, right, like in my first trimester, I was like, I'm gonna get too nauseous watching this.
Fair.
But it actually wasn't. It didn't hit on those things that specifically for me like make gore kind of like unwatchable.
Like people eating things they shouldn't.
Okay, yeah, people eating things they shouldn't is like big. I cannot watch like that type of stuff. So, I had one more thing I was gonna say. Oh, like you said, Hunter, and this is something Chad and I talked about as well. I think even more than 15 minutes. I think they easily off half an hour of this movie. It wouldn't even have had to have been the gory parts, like if that's what people went there for. They could have shaved off half an hour easily, and this would have been a better movie.
Cut out like the possum stuff and things like that.
There's just stuff. There was some like story shots and like stuff where just stuff kept happening. Some of the acting was, I would say mostly like, I would say actually the two kids did a great job acting. Arthur was like phenomenal. I think the mom was probably the worst acting in that movie.
See, I actually disagree slightly with the mom because I actually feel like she showed a lot of range where it's like she's dealing with these two kids who are like fucking insane and she's trying to keep her cool, but there are moments where she just goes off. And then what's great about the acting to me is she goes off, she blows up, and you can see like a kind of a remorseful look on her face, like I shouldn't have snapped, but I'm stressed out, like blah blah blah. Like it feels more natural instead of having just like the cookie cutter mom in the horror films where they don't really do much, or they like overact a lot with the over screaming thing. I felt like a perfect balance.
I thought hers was kind of overacting, or I didn't believe that she was like actually mad at the kids at all. So, but that's just personal opinion.
I mean, he did do shaving cream all over damn car. Crazy.
Was that him or Art the Clown?
It was Art. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, she thought it was him. So
yeah.
But the one thing I want to add before we move on is it has a fun song. There's a lot of great horror movies that have fun songs like this one does, like Season of the Witch. What is it? What is The Stuff?
The Stuff.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really horror movies with fun songs. Get an extra point.
Plus, the end credit scene is just fucking weird. I'm not sure if you guys saw that.
Yeah, that was weird. I was like,
Chris Jericho shows up as the security guard, and it's amazing.
Yeah. No spoilers here.
All right, we move on to Chad with his number 12.
All right. Okay, so my number 12 is actually a movie that I really, really love a lot, but partly I'm just like, is it more of a horror? It's definitely a horror movie, but it's also like a superhero movie. So I put Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at 12.
Ooh.
Just because I love it so much, but then also I think people who do say, well, there's some problems with it. Like I kind of agree there in some cases, but also I think the horror is so excellent. It's just not at the forefront of the entire film. There's just certain times with like Scarlet Witch and there is just little things with like Scarlet Witch and stuff like that happen that are really excellent. And there's a thing at the end that happens as well. That's pretty incredible.
Well, I mean, we can spoil a little bit because the movies have been out for a year, so.
True. All right. Yeah. The part where he he basically jumps into a dead body and then like has to like wield the dark forces.
That's so Sam Raimi.
Wear them as a cape. It
Go away.
is, and
Go away.
it's one that like really makes me want to raise this up higher in my ranking. But there's so many other great films that like I don't know. It's really tough. This is a good year.
Yeah. So this one I didn't actually put on my list. I think at a time it was in my horror list, but then I kind of redid it. But I really, really love this movie. I'm kind of like, maybe I should have put it on my list because it was really, really fantastic. Yeah, and I love Scarlet Witch is like one of my favorite like Marvel characters. So I loved how much she was in this. I loved her turn. That's a spoiler. Sorry. But I feel like if you don't know that by now, like, come on.
Yeah.
But sorry.
It's been out for about over a year actually. So
yeah. And I love Sam Raimi. I love the Bruce Campbell cameo. Like
Pizza Papa.
He always gets paid. And if you want to talk about like kills in a horror movie, just watch Scarlet Witch go off.
Dude, she murders the Illuminati.
I know, yeah, that was great.
And like really gruesome ways too.
Dude, was it Captain Carter getting him like cut in half by our own shield was awesome.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it was like much more gorier for PG-13. It was like PG-13 gore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did not have this on my list. One, because there was a lot of
and I did then.
there was a lot of other movies that in the horror genre that I relate to more, but also it was in that gray area for me where it's like it has horror elements, but I count it more as a superhero movie. That's the way I kind of looked at it, but like I don't fault anybody for putting it in their horror list. I really enjoyed this movie. I know it was very divisive among people who say that the MCU Phase 4 was like really bad. I don't really see that. I like Phase 4 of the MCU. And I think Multiverse of Madness is actually one of the best of Phase 4. But I'm also someone who really liked Thor Love and Thunder. So my opinion at that point just like kind of dips down. So
I agree with you, Hunter.
I think it's one of those things, we don't have to like stay on the MCU discussion, but I think MCU is just like, I think people are just like weirded out about how disparate that this phase is until things start to come together. So people are like, what's this and what's that? What's this and what's that? So they haven't really found the connectivity yet. So I think once they find that, people may relook at Phase 4 and go, oh, I actually like that better now.
Yeah, I see Phase 4 as like the new Phase 1 of the MCU. Because when Phase 1 started, they didn't know, like, they had an idea of going to the Avengers, but they didn't know how they were going to do it. And it just was like single separate movies with little tie-ins.
Unfortunately, we didn't get like the Avengers in Phase 4.
Yeah.
That's probably in Phase 5.
Yeah, because we're getting the Kang Dynasty Part 1 and 2 next phase.
And it was also the first phase that just has like TV shows and stuff. So it's just different.
Yeah, the Disney Plus shows are very different. All right, so we move on to Carrie for her number 12.
Okay. My number 12 is the Hellraiser remake.
Oh, nice.
I really enjoyed this one. I thought the metaphors in it were really great. I thought there were some really great kills. Just because I'm someone who didn't grow up with the 80s Hellraiser, I just have never thought it was scary. This one I actually thought and I'm sorry to everyone who loves the original. I really am. I understand. But to me, it's just it didn't. And I saw it like after I had already been pretty jaded by horror movies.
Like David
it's like
Bradley is his name.
Now.
Is that his name? David Bradley?
David Bradley.
Oh yeah. Pinhead.
Yeah.
Doug Bradley.
Or Doug Bradley, whatever his name is.
Yeah, isn't David Bradley like the British
I don't
actor?
know. I mix up names. So sorry.
Anyways, I really love the new Pinhead. I love the character designs. Like,
what's her name?
Jamie Clayton.
Yeah. She was great. I loved how it ended. Like I just thought overall it was a really, really well done horror movie.
Oh.
In a franchise I never really liked that much before.
Yeah, Chad.
Oh, back to me. Okay. Yeah, Hellraiser. I mean, it's in my like list here. It's at like number 16. I honestly wasn't paying that much attention at anything ranked below 12 though, because I was just trying to get my 12. Hellraiser, yeah, it didn't make my top 12, but I did really also like it. Probably one that I would owe a rewatch, but I think just the craft of it, I think, was pretty excellent. Like how they did all the effects, the chains, the makeup, like all the designs of the creatures and stuff like that was pretty excellent. Yeah, I think the main acting from the people, especially the lead, were like really great. Yeah, the new, I guess you could say, new Pinhead was actually pretty great as well. And it's just like really cool to see. Spoiler alert for Hellraiser! It's really cool to see like that the what are they called again? The Cenobites.
Mm-hmm.
The Cenobites can also be like be victim to their own rules and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, they're not above it. And then you get to see, the kind of villain of the movie become a Cenobite, which I thought was a really cool, like looking sequence. And it's like, whoa, okay. I never thought I'd see like the origin of one of those things, which is really cool. So yeah, I don't get why people would hate on this one other than it's not my Hellraiser.
Yeah, it's not the OG.
I like it a lot. So
sadly, it's not on my list. It's like number 13 for me.
I thought it might be, to be honest. I remember you liked that one.
I really love the new Hellraiser. James, I do like the fact that they hired a trans actress to play Pinhead and Jamie Clayton. Because the whole idea of like in the novel, like the Cenobites have no sex. They're like, they're just kind of fluid. So the idea that they kind of hired, them to play Hellraiser was a really cool aspect. I love the brother and sister story with our main characters. The problem is I haven't seen it in a while, and I kind of forgot a lot of things. So maybe I go back and rewatch it. Maybe I'll like it more and more. But for right now, I kind of made this list like last minute, so a lot of movies are still fresh on my mind. Are kind of going
time, Hunter.
I had time. But I also had to watch like seven more horror movies. So
we did a lot of that too. We were very excited. We're like, let's watch. What can we watch? We can watch everything right now for this. You never know. There could be some gems we've never heard of before. So we went into Shudder and stuff like that. Like, what is this?
Shudder's
made it on there actually.
A great choice for a streaming service.
Yes.
All right, back to me, correct?
Yeah.
My number 11 is going to piss about half the people watching off. My number 11 is Halloween Ends.
Nice.
I absolutely love Halloween Ends. The reason why it's so kind of lower on my list is because I wish we had more Michael Myers, and I wish that they would have introduced Corey like earlier on in the other films. That way it had a nice tie-in. But for what we got, I think it's a really good Halloween movie. It really dives deep into the town of Haddonfield and like what trauma will do to people, and like the victim blaming of like the town wanting to blame one person for all their issues. I love that aspect of it. I love that the town feels more alive. Like people, like it's not just focusing on Laurie and Allison. It's focusing on the town as a whole, and you got that really good connection with Corey and Allison, and then the great final battle with Laurie and Michael. I think this does a lot of things right. I just wish we got a little more Michael Myers in this film.
I had this on my list. I actually had this very high at one point, and then I was like, okay, there's some other like maybe more original ones on there, and this is like kind of like the end of a franchise that's in another long running franchise and stuff. I put this at number 6 actually. But I
Wow.
did have it even higher just because like this was one of the biggest surprises for me. And the fact that it's so divisive and you have I feel like the majority is in the I did not like that movie. And in some ways I understand why some might because it kind of does do the thing where it's like, well, you promised us this and you gave us that. And
Marketing was way off for this film, by the way.
yes,
Yeah.
agree. But I kind of love that they went in a new direction because I expected after Kills, which I did not like, I expected it to kind of be more of Kills, and then it's going to end the way it actually did in this. And I feel like because you had to do the ending the way they did, but I love that David Gordon Green said that he never planned for that to be the whole focus of the movie was it's kind of like Peter and the chicken from Family Guy, just Laurie Strode facing Michael Myers the whole movie, and they just pick up the fight, and it's like, what kind of boring movie would that have been? I don't know what they would have wanted, but like how many times have we seen Michael Myers go after people? It's just like the same over and over, and then finally this is kind of a new take on something, and it's like it's not perfect because you do have that ending, but I feel like I said, you had to have that, but everything else I think is just kind of brilliant and just different, and I really like that. They kind of went back to a season of the witch type of thing, and I just did not expect it from that opening sequence on with Corey and that little bratty kid. I did not know what the hell to expect, and it just caught me by surprise. And I don't know, I loved a lot more of it than I thought I would. So I'm just a stand for this movie. But yeah, I've already talked about it a lot on here and other places. So, but check out our Halloween ranking over my channel, Chadwick Webb.
Yeah. So this is not on my list. It was better than I thought it was going to be, especially because I was one of the people who didn't like Halloween Kills. So I kind of went into this with very low expectations and was pleasantly surprised. But overall, I thought I think like you said, Hunter, there were just so many more original movies this year, original horror movies. And honestly, I could have done without this entire trilogy. So I could honestly do without like any movie past the original Halloween, but
I think the thing that this movie just gave me was just the thought of what if they would have began with this movie and just like made it its own thing. Don't even go into a trilogy. Make it really awesome. Remove the Michael Myers thing, and then just go into a new thing with Corey as the main. I thought that would have been really cool. But
Yeah, or like as I said, like have Corey be Allison's boyfriend in the first movie.
yeah,
Like
just
replace the
activity.
dude out with Corey, and then you get the slow burn of him kind of going crazy, leading into Halloween Ends.
Yeah, but I mean, I also agree with Carrie. Like, if I didn't like Ends as much, I'd just kind of throw away the entire trilogy. I didn't really care that much about the first two.
All right, so we are back on to Carrie, I believe, with her number 11.
no, we're on the chat.
Oh no, Chad.
Me.
Yeah,
Because I've
I
talked
did have
so
it.
much that you're like, he's talked. My number 11, yes.
Yes.
My number 11 is and sorry, Hunter, and probably Carrie too. It's Scream.
Yeah, that's.
I almost didn't put it on the list, and then I was like, it's a Scream movie. I was like, I gotta give it some representation, even though maybe it deserves to be a little bit higher. I know I'm somewhat unfair with this movie, but I did get really kind of like turned off by the whole Nev Campbell versus the studio type of thing, and like that shouldn't reflect how I feel about the movie, but it kind of does in a way, because I was really high on this movie the first time I saw it, and then every single time after that watching it, I just kind of liked it less, and I was just like, the nuance of it, like in the theater and just being hyped for a new Scream movie, made me go like, yeah, that was cool. I liked it a lot, and it was cool. There's a lot of really fun stuff in it, but then I'm just like trying to actually get into the story after the fact. I'm like, is there much story here? Does the story work? And then I'm like, I don't like the whole Billy Force Ghost thing that happens or whatever. That's just so weird and kind of turned off. I don't know. I was hoping for like kind of like a cool like stew thing. I know me and Hunter disagree on this pretty heatedly, but I was kind of hoping for something like that. I thought that could have been like really cool, but they went like weird Billy Force Ghost thing with it, and I don't know. I didn't really love many of the new characters except for Randy's like niece or whatever. I thought she was pretty great. Other than that, I mean, I'm still excited for 6. And I really liked, should I say who the killer was?
No, I
Okay,
think
I
we
won't.
should try to keep it a spoiler free.
All right, true. I really liked who the killer or killers were. And I thought they did a really great job in the movie as well. And yeah, I don't know. I need to rewatch this one. I want to rewatch this one in the scope of watching all of them again and then re-rank them and see if I'm legitimately being unfair about this or if I like it. I like it more than I think I do. So
yeah, this was my number 6.
That's my Halloween ends.
Interesting. One, it's a Scream movie, and I still, despite the fact that there were a couple things I didn't love about it, I still thought it was very fun, very much a tradition of Scream. I did like how they brought back the legacy characters and also integrated in new characters. I think that was the perfect way to handle this film. And yeah, I mean, I've said that I think similar to Chad, I don't thought that they brought Billy back as like, especially, I don't think that's really how, whatever mental illness that Sam has, I don't really think that's how it works.
Yeah.
But despite that's like a small thing, but then I thought the actual, like the kills were great. I thought the acting was phenomenal. And I thought I figured out one part of the reveal and not the other, which I think for me is a great balance because I kind of get that satisfaction of being like, "Ooh, I figured it out," but I also get surprised, like best of both worlds.
Yeah. Hopefully they'll undo the Billy thing in Scream 6. And
I hope they don't bring Steve Ulrich back
because I just want them to keep it like more realistic. That's what I love about Scream so much is it's like that could happen to you, but if someone's seeing ghosts, I'm like.
That's why Stu can't come back. It wouldn't be realistic.
It would be
I
to
think
me.
If they were going to do Stu, it would have had to have been in 5.
Yeah, especially because it was Stu's house, and
yeah, exactly.
It would have been perfect.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Yeah, this was way high on my list. This was my number 3.
Oh, nice.
I'm surprised it's not your number 1, to be honest.
It was close to being number 1 because this is probably the horror movie I watched more in 2022. I watched it, I think, up to 8 times so far.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Every time I watch it, I never get bored of it. I never get tired of seeing little Easter eggs that the cast put in. That's like, oh, now I see why they did that, or why they're acting like this, or little clues that they put in after knowing what the twist is. I love all the new characters. I love Richie. I love Amber, Tara, Mindy, just all of them. And I think there are more just great dramatic scenes in the Scream franchise, especially when, like, kind of a spoiler, but kind of not. I'm not getting into details, but the hospital scene with Tara and Sam, I think, is one of the best dramatic scenes in the franchise because you really get the backstory of who these people are. You get the really great emotion from Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera, the great acting back and forth. There's just so much that I love about this movie that it's hard for me to think of a negative in my head.
I got some if you want.
Oh, I know you do. All right, let's move over to Carrie for her number 11.
Okay, so my number 11 was a movie called Nanny.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And I think this was on Netflix, right?
This was on, I think, Prime, actually.
Okay, on Prime. Oh, yeah, because, you know, we had to like keep it. Prime doesn't keep your place when you.
Yeah, so annoying.
Sometimes.
But I'll say, okay, so this is a movie. I would say it's definitely more of a drama with horror elements, but I think it had enough horror in it for me personally, for it to be on my list. That said, though, I know a lot of people have gone into this because it was labeled a horror movie and been very disappointed. So if you're one who, you know, you don't want to see a drama with horror elements, or you're not going to be satisfied if the conclusion like isn't straight horror, probably not for you. You can see that in the difference between like I think the RT critic score is like 81% and like the audience score is like 40% or something.
Of course it is.
So,
ooh, okay.
Yeah. So it's a little divisive, I think, among audiences. So I think you have to go into it knowing it's not going to be really very like a straight horror movie. But it's about an immigrant from Senegal who is trying to earn money to bring her son over to the U.S. and she's nannying for a family in the Upper East Side. And I think it features some interesting African lore that plays into the horror elements. Overall, I think just this was such a unique film. I really enjoyed a lot of the visuals. And I think from like the writer and director of this film, we're going to see like some great things.
Yeah, I had this. I actually didn't have this on my list. But Carrie's talking it up so much, I'm like, that's a pretty good movie. I think the reason why I didn't is because we watched it in like little sections and stuff, so I didn't get the full, you know, scope of it or whatever. But it's awesome that you loved it because there were so many great moments in this. I love the representation. It kind of reminded me a little bit of His House, which is another kind of like immigrant from Africa trying to, you know, make it here. And it was interesting, like, you know, about the whole her trying to bring her son over, and there's a lot of horror with kind of that and her fears of things happening and you know, stuff like that. It was really great. A lot of like water themes to it. So, you know, plays right into Avatar 2. Well, double feature.
Yeah. There you go.
5-hour double feature. There you go.
Yeah, I've never heard of this film, so
Check it out, dude.
I'm about to look it up. It's on Prime, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, definitely one that I'll put on the checklist. Because there was a lot that I didn't catch in 2022. I tried to catch like the big releases and some small releases, but some of them I just can't catch. So
yeah, we tried to go. Once we had seen a lot of the big ones, I was like, let's go look at some of these smaller ones and see if like one really. And look, we did, and Carrie put it on her list. She loved it.
So yeah, my list is like almost all like big releases.
No worries.
Fine, yeah.
So ready for the comments to be like, you're not a real horror fan if you didn't watch these Shudder releases.
You know, and that, but you get it from the opposite side, like, oh, like if I don't put certain big releases on my list, it's like why?
Yeah,
it's horror. Carrie.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you horror?
You can't make the people happy.
Yeah, that's very true. All right, so we're on to me for my number 10, correct?
Yeah.
This one I watched only once, but I have it stuck in my head because of how fun I had. Bodies is my number 10. I love this film. I had so much fun with it. It is a horror comedy about these people who get stuck, or they have a hurricane party, which just shows you how fucking rich and annoying they are. And then they play a game called Bodies. And then someone ends up dying. I'm not going to give it away because the twist in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
I do not want to ruin it. It's a whodunit with some great comedy, some great acting. I think what's also funny is that it looks at Gen Zers without making fun of them. Like a lot of people do that. I was telling Chad and Carrie this in our group chat, I was like a lot of film nowadays, when they try to, I guess, be hip with the new crowd, they make these, Gen Zers be like, these annoying, like obnoxious people, and they kind of say that that's the whole generation, instead of, no, these are rich assholes who just happen to be Gen Zers. So they have TikTok, they have Instagram, things like that, and the way they incorporate that with this horror comedy is really smart. And this movie has a great, like, funny, weird twist that you guys really need to check this movie out, because it is super funny, super entertaining. So that's my number 10.
Yeah, Braun, to me, this is my number 3. I saw Bodies, and I don't know. I didn't know what to expect, but I really loved it. I loved the theater experience I had. A lot of people were like kind of losing their minds over this because it is kind of crazy. It's very funny. People are laughing. You don't expect certain things, so it's a very good, like, thriller. But yeah, it is a horror movie because it's like a slasher.
Mhm.
And I won't talk about the twist, but yeah, it was fun to like wonder what the hell is going on, like who's doing this kind of a deal. And it's just, the cast is stacked. You got freaking Lee Pace in there.
Lee Pace playing a 32-year-old, which is hilarious.
Yeah, he's kind of like this really old guy amongst like a bunch of younger people, and he's just like kind of chilling, dating a younger girl. And then I think, speaking of her, it's Rachel Sennott, who was in Shiva Baby and stuff like that. So she's probably going to blow up. You got Maria Bakalova, who was in that Borat movie. She's blowing up. Pete Davidson. Yeah, so you had a lot of really great people in this, and they're so funny, especially Rachel, because she's just like kind of like freaking out, and everyone has their own little personalities. But I think the strength of this movie too, not just how fun it is, but it's just like it does the character stuff so well that like everyone's having like these like heated kind of conversations and like relationship stuff that's happening, not like friendships and stuff like that, like talking about the past and the present and all this stuff. And she's new, what's she doing here, kind of a thing, which relates to another movie we might talk about later, that's kind of actually very similar. This movie is similar to a lot of things, but also being its own thing, which I really, really dug. And like, for me, I was saying this feels to me more like the original Scream than this new Scream that came out. And that's not to, again, bash Scream 2022.
Doing a lot of bashing, I see.
But just because I thought that Bodies just was so unique and original, and it was so like kind of fast paced and witty, and just like the dialogue and just the red herrings and finger pointing and stuff like that, I thought was just really well done, and I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to watch it again because I've also only seen it once. But yeah, it was enough to be my number 3, so there you go.
Yeah, this was actually my number 2.
Oh,
I also
same mind.
really, really love this movie. I thought, and it was like, it's hard because Chad will tell you, like, our local AMC, if you don't go in the Dolby or the IMAX, the rest of the theaters are like, the seats are kind of gross, and like I hate it. So we walk in there and I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're in this regular theater, I'm not gonna have any fun. But it was actually one of the most, maybe not the most, but like one of the most fun theater experiences I had this year, just because I think we had a good audience of people who like were interested in the movie but not obnoxious, and like but I don't know, this was, like Chad said, I think it was one of the most original movies this year. The young actresses were all really, really phenomenal. I think the only one you didn't mention was Amanda Steinberg. I thought she was also great.
Oh yeah.
But I'm trying to gather my thoughts. And this movie was just so fun. I kind of had a suspicion about the twist like partway through, and I was like, if they go that route, like this movie is going to be really great, and that's like a really bold choice, and that is what they did. And so I was like really, really impressed with it, like that's what they went for. I don't think it's everyone's cup of tea, but if you like horror comedies, I think you will really love this one.
Yeah, it's like really smart writing, and then also I think for like a theater, well, it's a little late now, but the theater experience that we had, it was like one of the few times that I was actually fine with people like laughing and talking during the movie and stuff. Like, what the hell is going on?
Yep.
But also, is this the one we saw right after E.T.?
I think yes, your mom was with us. Yeah.
So we saw this right after seeing E.T.
You saw this with your mother?
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom loves to go see horror movies.
Oh my
so
God.
That's
She's
awesome.
mad at us if we see horror
she
movies
was
without
just
her.
messaging us
That's
like,
awesome.
these are all the horror movies I
Yeah.
want to see in 2023. I'll be like, we're gonna have a baby at some point, so we'll see, Mom.
And
But-
you're not going to be watching it if you go with us. So.
But yeah, we saw this like right after we saw E.T. in the theater, which was one of the most magical experiences that I've had in a theater, seeing E.T. on the big screen. So that might have also aided us like in wanting to love another movie. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is a line that cracks me up like every time I hear it, and now I go back and rewatch the scene. It's when Alice is calling out for Greg, and they're covering her mouth, and she goes, "You're silencing me."
Yeah.
people love that line in the theater too.
Which, by the way, the actress, I believe that was ad-libbed too by the actress,
Oh.
and they just kept it in.
That's perfect. I love little fun
that was
facts like
great.
that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have to do like a full spoiler talk for Bodies because that ending, I have to talk about it with somebody.
I'd love to rewatch
Yeah.
it. So.
That ending is so funny. All right, so we are back to Chad with his number 10.
Okay. And this one also might be a little low, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, should this be higher? But then I was like, there's just so many other. It's justified to me. I'm like, there's so many other great movies. I put Nope at 10. So I really, really dug Nope. I think there's a lot of really great stuff in the movie. I don't agree with people who say it's not a horror movie because this is so horrific at times. Like, I won't spoil anything, but there's like a sequence of like people screaming and just being kind of like in a suffocated, like, claustrophobic kind of setting. And like that to me was like one of the most horrific things, right up there with Terrifier 2 and stuff like that. That's just so scary. But yeah, like a lot of the character stuff was really great. The scope of it was fantastic with like, something in the sky and things like that. Like, but also there was more than that. Like they had like a whole thing with like a, I don't know, monkey, chimp, whatever the correct term is. That was actually very, very terrifying as well. Like one of the most tense experiences I had in a theater. Like, what's going to happen next with this animal. Yeah, it just goes to show that it's just another thing that Jordan Peele has out there to wow us. And we've had like a whole discussion about Nope on this channel. So go check that out. If you want to hear more of our thoughts, but I thought this one was incredible. And it should be higher, but a lot of these movies should be higher than where they are. But it's a great movie.
Yeah, this was my number one.
Wow.
Wow. Nice.
I love that. I need to rewatch it, to be honest. I need to give it a rewatch.
I just something about Jordan Peele's movies, they always hit for me. This is actually, I would say, my least favorite of his 3 movies, but it's still my number one for this year. So
Wow.
Yeah.
I think he just puts like such care into crafting like every shot and like just all of the details and metaphors you can get out of a single movie of his, including this one. I think it's one that you can go, and we only saw it once, maybe twice.
I've only seen it once.
Okay, then we've only seen it once,
Yeah.
but I think it's one just like Get Out and just like Us, you can go back and watch and get something new out of it each time. And the acting was just top notch. I thought it was, like Chad said, there were some scenes that were just to me were really terrifying. I think overall, just this was my favorite because I thought it was probably the most brilliant movie this year. And I don't know, just something about like the way Jordan Peele makes his films. They just always are hit with me.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you guys saw the message or not. I put in the comments, but since we already did a spoiler talk for this film, if you guys want to get into a little bit of spoilers, that would be fine. The movie's been out for a year at this point, so
I mean,
feel like
we just talked about it,
I'm
so
kind of done.
but you can say whatever you want.
Go for it.
okay, because like people who say that this isn't a horror movie, I don't get what you mean, because literally it's a giant flying monster in the sky. It's a literal monster movie. So
People just like want to see specific things.
Yeah.
And nothing.
They
else is
want to see
horror.
either paranormal or slasher, and to them anything else.
technically, nope, it's
paranormal.
paranormal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Aliens.
know. Yeah.
Well, paranormal, alien.
Yeah.
So-
I don't know, but yeah. This is my number 4. This is my number 4 of the year. Again, my top 3 have changed multiple times, and Nope was actually at my number 5, but then talking about it knocked it down to my number 4 because it's thinking about that movie. It's so brilliant because again, what's great about Jordan Peele movies, you can go back and catch little Easter eggs or little dialogues that you didn't catch the first time. And what's great is this feels like a big budget, like Jaws film,
Yeah.
and it's scary. It's got like great action. The connection between the leads, Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya, are amazing. The opening scene is terrifying with Keith David. Like,
Oh yes. Keith
tons
David, what a great horror actor.
great horror actor. Yes.
The Thing. There
Yep,
you go.
The Thing. Nope. Yep. Just the mix of great comedy, because Jordan Peele is of course going to have comedy in his films. He's a great comedian. He's batting 3 for 3 right now, and he
Definitely.
is creeping up as one of my favorite horror directors. Just because he
Even
hasn't
stuff that he
missed
produces is pretty great, like
Yeah.
Candyman. and
Candyman, the Twilight Zone series he
didn't
did
see
was
that, but I want-
really good. It harkens back to the original really well.
They blocked it. It was like CBS All Access. We were like, I'm not subscribing for that just to watch Twilight.
1, 2, 3 movies, ladies and gentlemen.
Ah,
how I watch most of my movies.
all right.
Yeah, I absolutely love Nope. So yeah, my number 4.
Nice.
All right.
And some people will try to tell you that Jaws is not a horror movie, and I think
Jaws is indeed a horror movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my god, horror fans, I love you, but I don't understand you most of the time. So, all right, we move on to Carrie with her number 10.
So my number 10 was Prey, the new Predator movie. I think we watched the original Predator before we watched this.
not right before.
Not right
but
before, but
Yeah.
within a few weeks of each other. Maybe.
Months.
Maybe.
Thought it was months. It's not.
Maybe
It
2
doesn't
months
matter.
at the most. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Didn't love the original Predator. Like for me,
Ooh.
just didn't do much for me.
But
But
I don't think we were
this,
crazy paying attention.
that's
the whole
I
time
guess
either.
that's true.
but-
Yeah. But it's hard when a movie's like so in the culture that kind of everything has been spoiled for you already. It's hard.
Yeah.
True.
It can be hard to enjoy something like that. This I thought was so fantastic, like such a great departure from the previous 4 Predator movies. I love that we got this female warrior hunter as our main lead. I love the setting for this movie. I thought the Predator in this movie was the scariest it's ever been. Some of the shots were just really, really cool. The dog was adorable. Overall, I thought this was like a fun watch. Also had some great scares in it.
Okay. Chad?
Yeah, I didn't have this on my top 12. You know, it's one of those like I Predator's a horror movie, Prey is a horror movie. But like for me also, it's like, well, it's a little more action too, so it's kind of like 50-50 a little bit
It's a
there.
hybrid.
And they both, can't remember about Prey, but I know Predator has like a great like horror score and
Mm.
stuff like that. Like if you want to talk about like horror elements, just like look at the score, look at specific things like that too. It's like, well, you can really get like Spencer was a movie that I called a horror movie, and a lot of people probably be like, that's a drama, that's a biographical drama. I'm like, look at that Johnny Greenwood score though.
Oh, Spencer with
Case
Princess
2.
Diana.
yeah, Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, Case 2. But yeah, this one was really great. I think it's kind of similar to the original Predator, to be honest. It's very stripped down. It's just like, man, or in this case, woman, versus the Predator.
Yeah.
And it was really cool that like this is like, it's not like your typical like, white buff soldier, not just white and Predator, but buff soldier,
Male soldiers.
macho dude. But yeah, it was like a lady that's really smart, outwits a lot of the people around her, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Yes.
It's also like no modern technology. It's not like she's shooting him down with a gun. She is really relying on
like bows and arrows. And...
bows and arrows, and like her own like mental skill.
Yeah, which is really incredible. This was Dan Trachtenberg, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an incredible director. 10 Cloverfield Lane, stuff like that. And yeah, this was a really fun one. I owe this one another rewatch at some point. I want to watch all of them.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say I didn't have it on my list, but I understand why Carrie would. It was really well done.
Mm-hmm. So this is a movie that I've been trying to watch, but I lost Hulu and haven't gone back to rewatch it. I got like halfway through, lost Hulu, and was like, oh my god. Like, so I saw like
movies, I guess.
Yeah. So I saw like maybe like the first half of this film. I loved it, but I couldn't put it on my list because I only saw half of it.
Yeah.
You gotta have that third act in your head.
Definitely. All right. So who are we on now?
You for your number 9.
Number 9.
All right. My number 9 is The Black Phone. I loved this movie. It was a great Stephen King feeling story because it is written by Joe Hill, who is Stephen King's son. So of course it would have that nice feel. But Ethan Hawke does it for me as this creepy, like psychopath character that he's never played before. Like if you look through his filmography, he's never been that crazy child murderer, like villain character, and
it's a very specific thing to be.
You know what I mean, like an actual killer in a film. Like he's never played the role. He normally plays like the hero or like the main guy. So the fact that they was like, let's give Ethan Hawke this character, and he absolutely kills it because he has to play not just a psychopath, but he has to play someone you kind of care about, and then he immediately rips that away from you at the end of the film because he just goes way over the edge. And like the children actors are really good. I love like enclosed space movies where it's like you're trapped in like one or two locations and you have to see survival. I like that kind of survival of the fittest aspect. And then of course you have like, this is not ruining anything because it's the trailers, the kind of paranormal ghost aspect of the phone that's unplugged, but he can still hear past victims. This film was actually a really good, like, it didn't go over the top with paranormal, but it felt more grounded in a way because that's kind of the way it was set. I really enjoyed this film.
Yeah, this was my number 1. So we got there. I was wondering, I was like, should I put Black Phone number 1? And I was just like, it just feels like a number 1 movie to me, which is why that's where it is on my list. Yeah, I agree. Ethan Hawke, I think, is incredible. I just love him as an actor just in general because he does so many different things. And even when you look at him in like Training Day, he's the good one. He's the is the sane one or whatever. He's also like a romantic lead in the
Mhm.
Before trilogy. He's just a lot of different things, and even in the other horror movies he's done, like Sinister,
Sinister.
he's a good guy. So it's a whole thing. He's a good guy. So in this one, him playing the total opposite is incredible. And then you have the kids, which I thought were just so good. I loved the main little kid, but then I love his sister because she's
Yes.
so funny. She's just like, at one point she's just like, Jesus, what the fuck? And just like, why did you, to the way she's talking to God and stuff like that's just so funny.
God, what the fuck?
And the main kid, I just love how he like connects with these, spirits, and just kind of like tries to figure out, I won't say whether he does or not, but tries to figure out how to escape this room with just information they give him. And there's a lot of like things that are set up throughout that end up working in the very, I guess I just spoiled it, that end up like helping him at the very end. And it's just like really incredible to see that happen. I think the people against the movie were just saying that like they wanted like more depth from the villain, and I'm like, what would that have given you for the movie, just to know that he was treated poorly in his childhood? Like what did you want from, like, you that would have added more for you if you would have gotten like a couple scenes of little baby kid, he's making his first mask and he's like, Mom hates me, or something like that. I don't know. It's just like it's just a really well written movie, and like you said, Hunter, it gave me those Stephen King vibes, like something really cool, original. And I'm just like, man, Joe Hill, following his father's footsteps, dude's got it. Like, I really want to read this book and rewatch this movie because it's so good.
Carrie?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Chad. I think this movie, like, I think one of the things I really loved about it was the fact that we didn't really get into the killer's backstory. It's mostly, this is a story about, can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's a story about the main kid. And
Phineas.
Yeah, Phineas. And, he is trapped in this situation. And that's what the story is about, him and the other children that have been murdered, and his sister. Like, that's the core of the story. I think that's the strength of a lot of like Stephen King and Joe Hill's stories, is that you kind of are focused on those characters, like in that type of story, rather than the villain. The villain is there, he's like setting up everything, but it's not a story about the villain, and I guess that's why some people were disappointed or whatever. And the child actors in this movie I thought were really, really phenomenal. The girl who plays the sister, I think, is actually in real life sisters with Violet McGraw, who is in like The Haunting of Hill House. She's the little girl.
Her name's Madeline McGraw. So
the little girl at the beginning of Dr. Sleep.
Oh,
she's in Megan. She's in Megan. So there's
she's
two
so good too.
Like nice little up and coming horror actresses. This actually didn't make my list on a technicality. So I like to make my list based on the Letterboxd release year, the release year that's on Letterboxd. This actually on Letterboxd is listed as a 2021 movie because it must have had a festival release in 2020.
Yeah.
So I didn't put it on my list. Okay. I said it's a technicality. Otherwise, it probably would have been like definitely my top 5.
Nice. Just to add, I'm seeing it now. Yeah, exactly what you said. He doesn't even have a name. He's just the grabber.
Yeah,
he's the grabber.
That's just the title of the thing. And I was thinking about it. I was like, well, look at like something like another Stephen King thing, like you were talking about. It. Like, I'm like, the first It, chapter 1, or like the new version, was so good. People loved it. And then when they got into 2, and then they were trying to explain more and more of it, it's like people started, I think they did it like do that stuff way better in like books. But in a film, it's like, it's just fluff that you're adding sometimes. But yeah.
Oh, I actually appreciate the fact that this didn't go the route that a lot of horror movies do, where it's like, let's give, the grabber this backstory as to
Yeah.
why. I think it would have taken away the fact that he is a child murderer and we're
Mhm.
not supposed to root for him.
No.
Yeah.
But the great thing about Ethan Hawke's character and just the way he acts is that he can still be this, this horrible monster, but when he puts on the sad face mask and stuff, you kind of his acting just with his face, you just kind of feel bad for him in a way where it's like you don't know why you feel bad for him. You just know that like Ethan Hawke can have this type of emotional feel with you as the audience member to be like, okay, like I don't need his backstory because there's something there that I can attach to the grabber to be like, I want these kids to escape, and you are terrifying, but there's also just a slight moment of like, a facial feature that he can
Yeah.
put out in a right moment to make you feel kind of bad for him in a way.
Yeah. And even if you did add like a whole backstory thing for him, then I bet you a lot of the people who are complaining about it would go, well, now it's not a horror movie because that's drama.
That's drama, yeah. Again, horror community, I love you. I don't understand you. All right, we move on to Chad with his number 9.
My number 9. This is a movie that was very surprising and also should be higher because like my top 12 is just like great movies that should be higher. Number 9, Smile. This
Ooh.
movie came out and it was when you see the trailer, you're like, this is gonna be, like a by the numbers,
Truth or Dare.
not really interesting, truth or dare. Like I've seen the whole gimmick, like, oh, they're smiling. That's weird, that's scary, I guess, right? But yeah, the scares were, I think, really well done, really incredible, really well formed. The main actress is Kevin Bacon's daughter, so it kind of runs in the family, like Friday
Really?
the 13th
I didn't know that.
members. Yeah, and she's incredible in it. She just plays like that whole, kind of trauma, super, super well of like, seeing, a patient. This happens like early in the movie, seeing a patient kill herself right in front of her. And, I don't know if you look at that as like the rest of the movie as like, she just saw some shit and the rest of the movie is like trauma that she's trying to escape from, and she can never really escape from it, kind of a deal. I just really dug, kind of the messaging of the movie. And some people are like, the ending kind of just ruins everything. I like the ending. Honestly, I'd have to rewatch it again just to, reformulate to make sure that if I think it's really, really great or if I think it's, just really good. But I did really dig this movie because the scares were so incredible. There's one part I hate, but I won't really talk about that right now. But yeah, it's just because this movie was such a surprise for me is why I had to include it on my list. And I can't wait to see what this director does next because it was just really fun, but like a lot of like, emotional weight, just like Hunter's talking about like Jenna Ortega and stuff, in Scream. I feel like you got a lot of this with little baby Kevin Bacon, even though she's not a baby.
Little baby Bacon.
This one wasn't on my list. Also not in my top 15, although I did think it was pretty good, pretty original. Had some very scary moments. Definitely, like Chad thought, better than I expected going in, because this was so heavily marketed. A little unfortunately marketed, I think, as well, because I think some of the good scares were actually spoiled in the trailers, and I'm like, why would you?
Yeah, the neck.
The neck. That's the particular scare I'm thinking of. So when that came, it didn't scare me at all because I'd seen it like 20 times
that could
already.
Have been cut out. That wasn't.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I do think this movie had some like a really great metaphor. I would say I didn't love nothing wrong with the ending. I just, something about this movie didn't connect for me. I think maybe the way it ended just for me was a little bit too predictable, I guess, or I don't know. I don't know what I didn't quite love about it to make it. And that's not to say though, like this, I think is still in my list of movies that I would watch again. I do consider very good horror films for this year. Maybe it's just more of a strength of this year that I just thought I just connected, I think, a bit with other films better.
Yeah, and also shout out to Kyle Gallner, who was like the other kind of main character, the cop guy.
Yeah.
He's in a lot. He was also in Scream 2022.
Yep, he was
in Reaper's Body, and he was in Red Eye, and then also the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Was he the emo punk kid in Jennifer's Body?
Yes.
Oh my god! I just put two and two together. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's really good.
He was really good. Too, yeah, and Rosie Bacon was very good as well.
Sosie Bacon.
Oh, sorry,
Sosie Bacon.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, I had Smile at number 7. What? Kyle Garner?
Sosie Bacon's younger than me. Sorry,
it's hard.
I didn't realize that. I was like,
you look at people and you don't think they're younger than
you. She's like older than me for some reason. Yeah,
right.
And that's no disrespect to her. I think it's the maturity of her acting is why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had Smile at number 7. I really enjoyed this film. I will say I liked the ending, but I feel like I watched a movie like a week prior that had this kind of twist ending, and they kind of blurred together for me, which I'll explain more with because that movie's also on my list somewhere down. But I think the whole message of trauma in this film is really palpable. Please don't smile at that. That's creepy. No, but the like metaphor of like trauma, and like in order to pass the demon on, you have to cause trauma to somebody else. Now maybe that's just me looking into it, and maybe
it follows a little bit.
Yeah, kind of like it follows as well. But maybe it's me kind of looking too much into it, or maybe me because of the the suicide of her patient. Maybe it's also a look on like maybe what suicide trauma does to people in your family as well.
Yeah.
Because it's like the trickle effect of like, well, if I do this, then my family is going to live with that idea, and kind of just like that trauma mixed with that message. I love when horror movies have messages behind it, and it's not just gore and kills, which are good, but the messages are what's great. And 2022 had a lot of great horror films with great messages added in that I appreciate. And that's why I think 2022 is one of the best years of horror, because you had so many different types of horror. You had your splatter films and Terrifier 2, but you also had movies like Smile that deal with a lot of mature topics.
Yeah, those are Tara Carpenter's favorite films too, like The Babadook.
Yep. Hereditary, It Follows.
Yeah. And Smile like definitely did have that It Follows vibe where it's just like, can you ever get rid of this?
Well, I would say also like threat? The Ring. Like you're passing.
Yeah, you're passing something on.
And The Ring is also like, will you ever really pass it on? Kind of deal.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my number 7. So who are we on now?
I think it's on me because your Smile was your number 9.
Number 9.
Okay. So my number 9 is Men.
Oh, nice.
Another one I haven't watched, sadly.
Oh, I thought you did watch this one.
We won't spoil it.
We won't spoil it. This is an Alex Garland film. I was super excited for this one going in because the trailers just looked crazy scary. To me, this was actually one of like the 2 or 3, I think, scariest movies of the year, at least for me. Like just the type of horror that I think it's maybe not the same for everyone, but the type of horror that I think is scariest for me. I found this movie was very scary. I thought it had like a strong metaphor and message. That it's a weird film. It's definitely not for everyone. But I didn't mind because I thought it worked. I don't know. I just thought, and Jessie Buckley, I love her so much. She's a fantastic fantastic actress, and to see her in a horror film was really cool.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Men. Yeah. What a strange film, but also, I do dig Alex Garland when he writes, when he directs. I think he's just incredible. I mean, he wrote 28 Days Later, and just a lot of really great Annihilation.
Ex
A lot of really
Machina
good
2, correct?
I'm sorry.
Ex Machina 2 is correct.
Yes, and that has a lot of horror elements in it. And I need to see Devs, but yeah, Men goes around because there's a lot of like kind of like feminist takes this year in media. Because you had Men, but you also had like She-Hulk, maybe another movie that might come up. But I think this one actually, even though it was strange, I think it handled it pretty well. About like kind of toxic relationships and just kind of like, I don't know. I need to rewatch this one to really get the full scope of the actual messaging. But I think Jesse Buckley played it really well. The guy who plays like pretty much all the other characters was really crazy and really good and really creepy, especially like when he's like a little boy character. It's just like really strange. Yeah. It's definitely one that's either going to work for you or not, or it might kind of work for you, but not fully. And I think that's where I'm at because I didn't have it on my list. I liked it. I agree with Carrie. It was pretty scary, and I didn't know if it would be. And yeah, I just thought the kind of the messaging, the feminism kind of worked. But it's one that you'd have to think on, I think, a little bit. Like you got to think like, is this saying something? Is it super effective? And I think that might be different for a lot of people. So, it's a thinker, and I think those make really good movies because you can rewatch it and not just pick up like Easter eggs, but then just pick up like, oh, I think this is saying this now, and I don't know.
I do think one thing I forgot to say was I do think this film did a really good job of showing a lot of different ways in which like there can be toxic masculinity or ways in which the behavior of mostly men, I mean, that is this movie. It is mostly the behavior of men being frightening or scary or harmful to women. That is the main focus of this movie. I don't think the movie's trying to say anything like, oh, all men are this way, this is always a relationship between, a man and a woman. Like, I think women can, do some, but I think it is a very unique perspective on some of the ways and in which real life, sometimes women are constantly, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't want to make it sound like guys are always bad or something.
Yeah.
I think this was like a cool perspective of just the different circumstances in real life in which women have found themselves. So
yeah, and like I totally agree with her because like coming from like the male perspective where I'm trying to figure out like what like the other side, if women are another side, like are thinking and like how toxic masculinity can affect all of us, like not just men but women as well, and because we're all kind of victims to each other's circumstances, and things that affect women also affect us, and we got to think that we're all one and not just two sides warring and stuff like that. But like Men, the movie called Men, that you're like, that one is probably going to be a man-hatey film kind of a deal, like that kind of feminism. I didn't really get that vibes from him. I mean, it's Alex Garland, it's a man who made it. So I also just kind of feel like, seeing it from that perspective is really interesting because it's not anti-feminism or anything like that. It's like really pro that, but it just doesn't go so much the other way, which a lot of the other movies and shows that, tried to do feminism, I was like, is this feminism or is this just like misandry at some point? Like, where does it, whatever. And like Carrie said, I'm sorry,
no, it's okay.
where it goes into like deep like relationship stuff, because I think the other things that I'm referencing were like, really bad dates that people went on, and I'm like, how many times do we get to? Okay, you're gonna show us the worst guy date possible, and I'm like, I get it. Sometimes guys are bad at dates. I don't know.
I think it was a lot deeper.
Yeah.
Like it is showing things like in a relationship or in different relationships in our lives that maybe at first don't seem as harmful, or it's not just like some guy's just being a freaking asshole. It's like these subtle ways or like these manipulative ways, and stuff that actually like, you know, just does cause like real physical harm and or real like emotional damage on like a significant level.
Oh, I love that point. And choosing to have like most of the male characters be just the same guy
Yes.
was really brilliant, because then you can like focus on those little things without having some different kind of actors to worry about.
Yes.
I guess
I do think it does some. I think you hit on it. It's like you're not distracted by you're trying to form all these different personalities, because it's kind of like almost this supernatural type thing. I think it is, you're able more to focus on the behavior. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you could call it supernatural. It's just like a big metaphor. Like,
yeah.
It's not a like a straight film. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Just watch it because it's crazy.
I thought it was really good. I can understand it's not everyone's, especially if you don't like horror that gets just like weird and metaphysical.
And I'm excited to hear what Hunter thinks when he finally gets around. I'm gonna check to see if I have a screen pass for it. I might.
Oh, yeah. This is a film that I've been trying my best to find like good quality versions of. I just can't find it. So I haven't really gotten to watch it, but from what you guys say, this movie seems like something I'm gonna love, because I love movies with a message, as I said before, but movies that aren't afraid to push the boundaries or do something weird or crazy or unique. And you know, when I finally do watch it, I would love to do, you know, a more in-depth review on it with you guys, just to see, to be like,
yeah,
you know, did I catch stuff that you guys didn't catch, or did you guys catch something I didn't catch? And there's kind of, I love movies that have like kind of a deeper meaning behind it when you watch it, and it's not just this. Because I'm somebody who, like, you know, I don't really like subscribe to the all men are bad, all women are bad thing. I just feel like it's a mixture, but I've never gotten mad at like She-Hulk or anything like that. You know, I'm
not even during
like,
the twerking.
No, I laughed at the twerking. What are you talking about? No, it's just people take entertainment way too seriously. But
yeah,
you know, I'm somebody who, like, while I may not agree with the message, because it's something that I can't relate to, I know somebody else can. And if the director is putting their heart and their experiences into a film, into writing a film, then that's great, because everybody has different experiences. So, like, my experience is not going to be the same as yours or as hers or anybody else's. And that's the great thing about humans, is that we're all kind of a melting pot of different experiences and different, you know, we're all unique in a way, and we all have different unique backgrounds. So I'm not someone whoever gets mad when somebody wants to put a message in a film.
Yeah.
Sorry.
yeah. No, I'm sorry.
I went on for a long time. I apologize for
we
having
did a lot.
Yeah,
Yes,
I have a lot to say about this movie.
All right, so that was what, Carrie's, correct?
Yeah. So going on to your number 8.
Number 8. I'm super excited to talk about this film. Pearl is my number 8.
Mm-hmm.
I love Pearl. Mia Goth is a fucking powerhouse performer in this film. She has this monologue at the end that is just brilliant. It captures you. And what's great is, like, it doesn't feel like X. It feels like its own unique thing. But it's still tied into that world of X. And I love X. I'm super excited for Maxine coming out this year. I think it's this year.
Yeah, it's supposed to be at the end of this year.
Yeah, at the end of this year. And I love Pearl as a character, so to see her backstory is really interesting. I like that it's a prequel, that it balances a great performance by Mia Goth and a really great story about somebody who wants to be famous so much, and kind of the links that Pearl will go to get that fame and to leave the farm, and just the whole idea of like turning that on its head. It's like, how far are you willing to go for fame? I'm not going to ruin anything, but this is a powerhouse performance by Mia Goth, and it's definitely one of my top 12 of the year.
Yeah, Pearl, I was very excited to see because, yeah, as I've said before on this show, I didn't love X. I wanted to because Carrie and I disagree with this. I really liked House of the Devil, which is another Ty West film. And so I was like, ooh, I like Ty West as a director. I'm very excited for X. I saw it, I didn't love it, and I was like, that's it? That's what, like, okay. And then I wanted to rewatch it, but I waited. I still haven't rewatched it. I will soon, because I'm excited to see how I like it after Pearl, because I really liked Pearl. In fact, Pearl is also my number 8.
Oh.
Probably should be a little bit higher, because of, yeah, the performance of Mia Goth. And just like talking about Mia Goth, she is great in X. I will say that. She's great in Pearl, Suspiria, and then another movie called The House, which is kind of animated, which I think is slightly horror. So it's like she's just kind of like becoming a scream queen. And yeah, she's intense in this movie, and really good and crazy, and it just like shows just like her like obsession with, not just like, becoming famous and, wanting all these things that come with it, but, just being able to leave like this, place that she's in that she doesn't want to be in, escape her parents that she doesn't like, and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just like a lot of the scenes in this are just so well, incredibly shot, that I thought like X was just kind of missing. Where Pearl, I think, just like the craft, I think he was just getting so much better with this. But I don't know. It's just whatever like kind of overarching story that he's crafting here. But I think, yeah, Mia Goth crushed it, especially with like her monologue, especially with like her dancing on the stage, and then her subsequent like losing and then freaking out, and just all this stuff. And just there's just like one scene, where you don't know if she's going to do what you think she's going to do, and she does, and then you're like, oh my god, here we go. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. We're here.
And they're like, what should the other person do in this situation, and stuff like that. I just remember like having some really good fun discussion about like scenarios. If someone's coming at you with something, what do you do? He's like, oh, did you have any chance? Maybe you should have did this before they got the thing. And I don't know, just had like a lot of really fun discussion with this. And I think this is a type of movie that's really, really good, that could also improve upon previous movies, or maybe even make like the next movie better. Just really strong like middle entry. Well, maybe not middle, because it's kind of a prequel. But I thought it was really super strong. I didn't like some of the animal stuff. I think if you removed that, I'd like it a lot more than I do, actually. Because I thought the monologue was incredible. I love stuff like that. Like the monologue from the one girl in Barry. I just love stuff like that, where it's just like a freaking like 5 minute, just one person talking, and it doesn't cut away. But then when it does, you're like, what is that other person now thinking? Or what's going to be the facial expression on that person after hearing that? So I don't know. It was really incredible. Really well done. Good job, Ty West.
This one was just out of my list. It would have been like number 14. I definitely preferred X, the little foreshadowing. I think I just connected with the characters in X a lot more. Like Pearl they do make her sympathetic in this movie, but she's just so fucking crazy. Like I cannot relate to her. Like, to be honest, I can't.
Oh, okay.
But I think it was a very well done movie. And Mia Goth's performance was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so also another connection I found between X and Pearl is how much Pearl and Maxine are kind of connected in a way, because they're both driven by fame. Because
Yeah.
in X, you had the scene where Maxine is like, I want to be as big as who'd you say? The girl who plays Wonder Woman in the original movies or the
I
original
don't
series.
remember. I don't
Linda
know.
Carter.
Yeah.
Linda Carter. Yeah, she was like, I have to be famous. And that's what's driving Maxine. And that's also what's driving Pearl, which we find out in this is kind of the chase for fame, which is what I love. And now Maxine, and in Maxine, it's supposed to take place a little bit later and deal with, the rise of the VHS market. So really interested to see how Ty West takes that into consideration. But yeah, I absolutely love Pearl, man. I think it's an original film that's somehow turned into this original trilogy that I love. That it started out with an original movie and now making two more that tie into each other.
Where'd you have it, Hunter?
Pearl, I had an 8.
Oh, that's right. Wait.
Yeah, Hunter
He started.
Yep.
Sorry, and also check out that end credits sequence with just her.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Oh, I didn't realize there was an end credit scene.
No. There's no end credits scene. That's how the
Just the
movie
credits
ends, is with
yeah.
her smiling. Like
Oh yeah.
And just give her an Oscar for that.
just for holding
hold
that
it, yeah.
face for like 2 minutes. Or
Yeah, it was impressive.
like acting, have her teach acting.
Oh yeah. All right, we move on to Chad with his number 8.
Number 8 was Pearl. Carrie.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So my number 8 is You Won't Be Alone. This was a movie that we saw actually almost a year ago at Sundance. We did virtual Sundance. And it was one of my favorites from when we did virtual Sundance. I would say, because I do think this movie did come out in theaters or like streaming or something. I'm pretty sure it did.
I don't remember. Probably.
I think so.
I've never heard of this
It might
film.
be on Shudder, actually.
Okay.
Or Prime. Who knows?
It's another one that I will say, if you go into it looking for a straight horror movie, you're probably going to be disappointed. This is like, again, more of a drama with horror elements. But for me, I really connected with it. I thought it told like a very beautiful story about what it means to be human. So I don't know if I guess my list is going to be a little bit more if you're more open to watching some dramas that utilize horror tropes.
That's awesome.
But I don't know. This was, I think, a very deep movie. I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Chad?
Yeah. I also saw this at Sundance. I was actually pretty interested in it. It's got Noomi Rapace. She's great. She was in Prometheus and Lamb and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and stuff like that. But I was one of the ones I think that was a little disappointed. I was really tired when I watched it. So maybe I owe it a rewatch. I remember it just being like, just like these long drawn out like scenes of like, something like, switching bodies. And then there's a lot of like weird brutality. And that's kind of all I just remember from it. And it just like, it kind of has a similar vibe to something like the Witch or The Witch. Or actually, it kind of feels like Robert Eggers could have directed this because it does also have like the Northman vibe. So I don't know, Hunter, you might enjoy it. It's not the same story at all, but it has like the same kind of like settings and stuff like that.
I would say it's not like anywhere near as action packed or.
Oh no! It's a drama. It's a very slow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't remember much about it because we saw it so long ago, and it just didn't, I think, affect me as much as it did Carrie. So it's kind of at the very bottom of like where I have. It's not my lowest ranked film, but I didn't hate it at all. But I don't really remember too much. I didn't really super enjoy it, but I probably should rewatch it because it has been such a long time. But I love that Carrie loves it. So there you go.
Yeah, I've never even heard of this film. So I love the fact that you guys are bringing up horror movies that I've like never even heard of. So it gives me more movies to look into.
Yeah.
We might not have ever seen it if it wasn't a Sundance
Yeah,
movie.
that's
So.
very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So who are we on? We just got
You?
done with Carrie. So me.
You with
For-
7.
Well, my 7 is Smile. So
Oh,
right.
nice.
you already talked about it, Chad.
My number 7 is another kind of smaller movie that not a lot of people might have heard of. It's Sissy. This movie I
Tell
thought
me
was
about this one.
Yeah, this one is really interesting because it has like a very similar vibe to like a Bodies, 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 to like an Ingrid Goes West. If you've ever seen that movie with Aubrey Plaza. Yeah, it's kind of like this whole thing of like obsession with like, fitting in, kind of like being an internet like influencer, but just like also just like wanting to reconnect with your friends, and just kind of obsession with fitting in and being liked, and kind of this need to be liked and stuff like that. And I don't want to super spoil a lot of the stuff because oh boy, you could spoil some stuff in this movie. There's some turns, but I really like the main actress. I liked a lot of the other actors in the movie. It's a foreign film. Do you remember where it's from? It's like Australia or something, or New Zealand.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it's Australia.
Yeah, they had like that kind of accent. That's but yeah. I just love the way it unfolds. It's kind of like a Bodies, Bodies, Bodies thing where that was like a hurricane party. This is like a hens party where they're like, what's that?
It's a bachelorette weekend.
Yeah, but
that's what they call it in Australia. It's like hens.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So yeah, so they went there, and it was supposed to be really fun, but then the main characters kind of like ostracized a little bit, and you learn why, stuff that happened in the past, and you just kind of like learn about things like that. And yeah, it turns into a pretty gruesome movie at some point. And I don't know. Yeah, I just thought it was just really well done. A lot of the kills were really unique, and just like really interesting. And you're always just like wondering, is it going to go there? And it kind of does. And I just thought it was a very tense, like thrill ride of a movie. So, and I like the character, or the characters, and the main character. Really great performance from her. And yeah, just unlike really any other, it's really unique. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, this just barely was not in my list. It was my number 13 for this year. Like Chad said, Aisha Dee in the main role, she gave a really, really incredible performance. I'm very excited to see what she's going to be doing in the future. Yeah, overall, just a really unique film. I think it really touches on like how people are behind the scenes versus what we may see on social media. Maybe really thinking about if you're getting advice from people online, like who is this person? Like you don't actually know who they are as much as you might see the side that they present themselves to be. I think also just a really interesting film about just friendship and how just we treat each other, and it had some cool kills, so it was a very interesting movie.
Yeah, and it's one I think that Hunter would really like, because of the whole Gen Z like influencer that it had. So.
Yeah. And so is this on Shudder? Is this a Shudder original?
This was a Shudder movie. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. I have Shudder, so I will definitely be checking this one out.
Nice.
Getting a lot of different horror movies, and I'm super excited to watch all of them, guys. You know me. All right, so we're on to Carrie with her number 7, correct?
Yes. Okay, actually this isn't my last like kind of like lesser known film. It's my second to last like more indie film. But this is another film we saw at Sundance. It's called Hatching. I think this one also is on Shudder.
Yeah.
Shudder bought it.
Mm.
It is in, I want to say it's like Finnish film.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, you look it up. This is actually another one similar to Sissy about like a little bit about social media. This is more like a mom is on social media and she's portraying her family life. And the film centers on a young girl who's going through puberty. And I don't know. I thought the metaphor in this movie worked really, really well. It has some really cool like monster type effects. I don't know. This one I was really impressed with. It was, I think, really well done. It has been like a year since we've seen it, so it's, I don't know. In some ways, it's a little hard to talk about, but I remember really loving this one. I just thought the metaphor in the movie like really paid off.
Hatching. It was a really interesting Sundance film. I wouldn't say like any of the Sundance horror that I saw like blew me away, but this was a very solid one. Like Carrie said, I think her memory's a little bit better than mine sometimes. I really do need to give this another watch. But yeah, the messaging about like, mother-daughter relationships and, stuff like that. It was really incredibly done. The effects were really cool, like the makeup and just kind of like the whole creature kind of thing. And it's like a mysterious like egg and just, kind of some like supernatural kind of vibe, I guess. Some of the effects, some of the things that happen are just like really shocking, surprising, and just really fun to watch at times. I don't remember a super ton about it, but I did like this one. And it's not on my list, but I would urge you to go check it out if you want to check out a lesser heard of film.
Yeah, and this was my favorite horror that we watched at Sundance.
Oh, cool,
for sure.
Cool. Yeah. It was top of the list, I think. Yeah.
All right, sweet. So going through these lists makes me realize that I didn't watch as much horror as I thought I did this year.
And you still thought it was a great year for horror.
Exactly.
So you have a lot more to watch, which is exciting.
Yeah, even more exciting, man. But yeah, like I don't really catch a lot of like indie horror films just because I don't have access to them. My theater doesn't show them when they come out, so I just kind of get the big horror releases, and then I have to sort out and hear about the smaller ones that get released.
Well, we also just kind of like lucked out that we had the means to go out in time to actually like spend to do Sundance and like that. Not everyone does that, and we're lucky that they did it virtually. Normally you'd have to go out, and then also we just kind of crammed a lot of these like indie ones at the last minute because we were doing this, and they were like, there's a lot of horror that wasn't just Halloween Ends and stuff like that came out. So we just kind of binged a lot of that stuff.
Well, and I'll say a lot of these films, like, we saw like Hatching and like You Won't Be Alone in particular towards the beginning of the year, and a couple of the other horror Sundance films we saw. Shudder bought like a lot of the horror films we saw at Sundance. A couple of the other streaming services like Prime bought. I don't know where Nanny originally. I'm sure Nanny though premiered at some sort of film festival. So it means a lot that these streaming services are picking up these films and making them more accessible to people.
Definitely.
Yeah,
most of these films, and like Chad said, most of these we just crammed and we're able to because they're on streaming services. And I'm hoping Shudder survives this whole AMC like.
What's happening with AMC?
AMC is like, well, I just want to say briefly, like AMC is like basically they're like fucked. Like I think they're like going bankrupt or something. They actually fired the CEO of Shudder.
I did not hear about this.
Last podcast on the left actually recently did an interview with him, and he seemed just like a very genuinely cool guy, very, very into and knowledgeable about horror films. And I feel like a big reason why Shudder gets so many of these just incredible films. They get everything from schlocky like 60s horror to these
Yeah.
brand new
Oh shoot, we need to watch that.
Yeah. Chad's reminded we need to watch an 80s movie that just came on Shudder. So I am hoping Shudder does survive in its
I have a feeling that if Shudder, as we know it now, gets canceled or deactivated, I have a feeling that that guy who runs Shudder is going to come up with another streaming service idea, kind of like Shudder.
Hopefully. I mean, I guess part of the issue is there's now too many streaming services, so they're all kind of failing. But hopefully we'll get something that will help us, make sure that these movies keep becoming accessible to people.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I love about streaming is that, like, a lot of people are like, buy DVDs because you actually own them. But I'm like, yes, you own them. One, I don't have the space for all that. But two, I like how accessible these films are because, let's face it, some of these Sundance films may not get a DVD or Blu-ray or 4K releases, but I can watch them on Shudder, or I could watch these new TV shows that are being developed that may not get a physical release, but they're going to have them on here because it's easy access for a lot of people.
Yeah, especially these ones that are so like divisive or or maybe just not for everyone. It's hard to justify spending, especially if it's an indie film. The cost is probably going to be more than something that's more mass produced. Like, even to get it on physical media, it's a risk. Like, do I want to spend $30 on this film that I might like?
I may not like.
Yeah.
Which with Shudder, like, I spend, I think, $50 a year on Shudder, and I get access to all these new and old horror films. And to me, it pays for itself because that's an entire year of not only new indie horror films, but older classics I want to go back and watch, like Halloween. Halloween movies are on there. Or just like, Chopping Mall. Like, I can watch Chopping Mall whenever I want. And that's amazing. All right. That was Carrie, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So my number 6 is the other movie that was on my list when it comes to big giant creatures, and that's Barbarian. I freaking love Barbarian because I watched no trailers, and I watched this. Like, I heard buzz about it, I heard how great it is, and I walked into it completely clean, and it hooked me immediately. I love when trailers don't ruin everything. Why do trailers have to ruin everything? But I love this film for how it takes a risk, like a big risk in this film halfway through, but they stick to landing because of the actor. I'm trying to walk my way around this review without spoiling anything because there are people, like, we did a spoiler talk on it. If you want to know what happens, it's on our channel. But, the actor that they cast to play in the second half really made it work. And it's a great balance of comedy, really good horror, really good suspense, and a really good message of, like, trauma. Again, like, trauma and, like, dealing with that and, like, leaving your issues to just, like, simmer underneath, and what monsters that they can cause on the inside that will slowly start coming out. I just absolutely think Barbarian is a great original film that a lot of people should watch.
Yeah, Barbarian is my number 5. I thought this was a very great, unique film. And I need to rewatch this again because there are like a lot of like really great like subtext and stuff that is in this that I've heard about. Shout out to Red Letter Media who did great coverage on this. They had a great discussion about this film, where I was watching it like a lot of like really big like surface level. I got some of the stuff that they were trying to do it with, like, toxicity and just like, the whole Me Too type of stuff that happens in the movie. And then, but they were going like on a whole other level about trust and about like, how sometimes the people that society tells you shouldn't trust ends up leading you down the wrong path, and the people that you think you should trust aren't the people that you should trust at all. And I don't want to get too much into that because I don't want to spoil anything like they were saying, because I do think this is a really great one that you can get into blind and just really experience it that way. I just want to shout out Zach Kreger, who made this, because he's like a Whitest Kid You Know guy, very funny comedian, and I just love like that, where it's like Zach Kreger, Jordan Peele, like all these like comedians that are so funny, but then they do horror really well, and I just love that kind of parallel. And there is some comedy in this movie that I think works really well, especially with I'll say Justin Long is in the movie, and his stuff is hilarious at times. There's my one favorite joke with the tape measure is all
Yes.
part because it's so funny.
Oh, it's so
Like,
good.
it's not something I would do, but like I get it. I also get it, which is really funny. And yeah, but this one has like a lot of really cool twists and turns, messaging. So it's like that same thing that Jenna Ortega would love about the higher messaging and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's like really well crafted and shot, and there's a lot to think about, and yeah, it never really goes where you think it might go. And just some incredible performances. You got Justin Long, Bill Skarsgård, and I don't remember the main actress' name. Carrie's looking it up, but she's really fantastic in it.
Georgina Campbell.
Yeah,
Georgina Campbell.
so good. Really surprising movie. It was like dropped, like they threw it into Dolby theaters at AMC, and we were like, people were just randomly talking about it. All of a sudden, they were like, "Look, it's called Barbarian. Go see it. That's it. You'll love it."
Yeah,
So,
I love the fact that the horror community didn't spoil this film for a lot of people.
yeah. Well, I don't even know if like a lot of the horror community liked the film, to be honest. Like, I think some people really did, and then other people might have been like, too much messaging.
What is this? Yeah.
Too much trying to say something. Like, I just want kill. Like, what's the Barbarian?
Carrie?
So this movie was, again, just out of my top 12. It would have been like my number 14 or 15. I think 15 actually. And I think I've said on here before my issue with the film, and it's mostly that like for me, a film's got to work like surface level and metaphorically. If you're gonna do like a big metaphor movie, and for me, it didn't hit actually as much surface level, just because the decisions the main character makes are just so. I'm just like this. I can't sympathize with you at a certain point because you're just like
fair enough.
But I think one of the scariest films of the year, especially the first 45 minutes, I think was some of the scariest stuff we've seen this year. And I overall a really great movie. I would agree with what you guys said. Just go in as blind as you possibly can if you haven't seen this one.
Yeah.
All right, we move on to Chad with his number 6.
Yeah, okay. My number 6 was Halloween Ends. So
okay. Carrie.
And my number 6 was Scream.
Nice. Okay, back to me.
Yeah.
My number 5 is actually a movie I just saw recently, Fresh on Hulu. I absolutely love this movie. I heard how good it was and how good Sebastian Stan was. But I didn't know the context of what Fresh was. I had an idea of what it was in my head, and it just completely went the opposite way, which I like. I like the fact that it has a message behind, trust and who you should and shouldn't trust, but also just like how it pokes fun at like online dating, and like how it doesn't take itself too seriously, but seriously enough to have that message of like, be careful who you meet online, and kind of that safety warning. But how this movie is freaking hilarious in scenes. It's scary. It's got some really good tense moments. I really found myself having fun with Fresh.
Okay. Yeah, the breaking the kind of bad news here. This is my lowest ranked film on my horror list. I know a lot of people who really like this. So Hunter's definitely not alone. I'm probably in the minority here. I don't know why, but for some reason, I really wanted to like this movie, and I just like really kind of hated it.
Hated it. Wow.
Maybe it was just something to do with not understanding what they were doing with the messaging and stuff in the movie, but like this was the one that I was kind of like alluding to when we were talking about Men, where I was like, this one just seemed like too like man hate kind of feminism. And maybe Hunter, coming from like a different generation, different like world view on it, sees it in a different kind of way. And I don't even know, I can't even remember exactly how Carrie feels on this, coming from a different lens. But like for me, like it just like, well, spoiler alert for Fresh. I know a lot of people love this, you know, seeing Bucky in a kind of a really cool like serial killer type of way. I did like that it was 40 minutes into the movie and then Fresh, and then I'm like, oh,
I love that. Yeah.
And there was another. Oh, it was Drive My Car was the other movie that did that. But yeah. I don't know, because I was expecting it to be really great because a lot of people were hyping it up. Ooh, Fresh, that's the next Get Out or whatever. And I was like, what? The next Get Out? So maybe I was trying to like, you know, judge it based on that, like people hyping it up so much. But
I'm the same way when it comes to that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I finally saw it, it just kind of devolved into, I don't know, I just remember the ending being like them just running up and just like brutalizing Bucky or Sebastian Stan, and I'm just like,
I'm gonna say he deserved it.
Yeah, he deserves it.
But it's like the beginning of the movie. No, he definitely did, but it's just like that's all it was. There wasn't much else to it for me. And even in the beginning, it was like, oh, she can't ever. She's always having bad dates, and then they took like this one date, and they like. They combined like every single thing that could go wrong with like a man that you could date, and then like that's that guy. It's like every bad date you've ever had wrapped up into one guy, and I'm like,
yeah,
all right, I get it.
I will say the only reason I'm okay with that is because it does almost like poke fun at it. Like it's not taking it too seriously. Like, you know, this is kind of being over exaggerated in a way, and I'm like, that's why I'm okay with some of these elements of like, you know, the horrible, you know, blind date at the beginning, because he was over the top, he was funny, he had these like cringy lines that he would say, but you know that people have had those dates before and they kind of poke fun at that. That's why I kind of saw it in a different direction, not more man-hating, more like, I don't know, kind of more like giving these experiences, but just like over exaggerating them. Carrie?
Yeah, this was, I didn't particularly like this one as well. It wasn't my lowest ranked horror film of the year.
I see.
Yeah. But it was in like my like bottom 4 that I would say I wouldn't particularly want to watch again. I don't know. For some, I don't really have the same criticisms as Chad. I just didn't particularly enjoy this movie at all. Like I didn't really connect with it. As I don't know. I'd say I'm mostly kind of a little bored the whole time. Like
wow.
I don't know. I guess because I knew, like, probably going into it, right? Like I knew Sebastian Stan was gonna turn, and he's, you know, he's gonna be a cannibal, and like. I don't know. Something about the entire plot, it just wasn't, you know, my cup of tea, I guess.
Yeah.
The other thing that I liked about it, I think they play Radiohead at one point.
Yeah, so they do.
That's one plus that I get. Well, 2 pluses, I guess.
Dude, that's why I love like just movies in general, because like I can see a movie one way, you guys see it a different way, and we have these common grounds of like, well, you know, I see it differently, you guys see it differently, but that's okay. Like, guys, you don't have to get mad at people for having different opinions.
There's one movie that I remember. Oh, it was like Rubber that we were like, oh, that's a really smart
Yeah.
like, fun movie, and
I
you were
love
like,
Rubber.
I was like, this movie's stupid.
there you go. You have Fresh, we have Rubber.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's move on to Chad's number 5, correct?
Number 5 is Barbarian.
Sweet. All right, Carrie?
Okay, my number 5 is The Menu.
Oh.
Yum, yum, yum.
So this one, this is another one I think folks should go into as blind as possible.
Yes.
I think unfortunately the trailers did spoil quite a bit of this movie. So if you haven't seen the trailers yet and you can avoid them, it would be way better if you do not know anything about this movie and go into it, like phenomenally better. But I think overall, like very well crafted. It's been compared a lot now to like Knives Out and Glass Onion with
yes,
kind of its themes. I thought it was really well done. The acting is really phenomenal. Like, because you have Anya Taylor-Joy, you have Ray Fiennes, you have Nicholas Hoult. Just a very unique movie, and I think, John Leguizamo in a role I don't hate him in. I think because he plays an asshole in this movie, and I'm just gonna picture this. Not that I think John Leguizamo is an asshole, or like I don't know.
He's
him,
Bruno. Would you chill?
I tend not to like him in his roles, but in this one, I actually did enjoy him. I think just a very unique movie. I think it ultimately went places that I didn't quite expect. So I think the themes of this movie were really strong and just overall like an enjoyable watch.
Chad?
Yeah, The Menu, it's my number 2. The Menu, I really, really dug. This was one that I was like, oh man, I made a mistake. I didn't see it in the theater, and then I was like, Harry, we gotta like scramble to try to find a time to go to the theater to see this. And then like someone was like, oh, it's dropping on HBO Max January 3rd or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, we can wait, but as soon as it drops, I'm like so excited. And as soon as it did, we checked it out, and I really dug it. And yeah, I got a lot of like Glass Onion vibes. Which I thought was like really incredible. There's another movie called The Outfit that we watched that was really good in that way, where it's kind of it's not what you expect at first, and then things kind of unfold in different ways, and you see characters differently throughout and things like that. And The Menu is definitely that. It's very funny, but also very scary. I swear to God, I thought that chef wanted to kill Harry Potter the whole time. It's kind of like one of those things where I'm lucky in the way it's a gift and a curse, as Monk would say, where it's a curse because sometimes I don't have the best memory for things, but it's a gift in that I don't remember much from trailers. So a lot of it's just like fresh for me, and people are like, spoiled in the trailer, and then I'm like, I think I don't watch trailers that closely because that was but yeah, The Menu was incredible. I love how everything unfolds. Like I said, I'm not gonna spoil it because it's pretty great. Anya Taylor-Joy is so good in it. Nicholas Hoult, I love him, and Ray Fiennes is terrifying. And you kind of it's kind of like a commentary on like the 1%, like against that, but it's also a commentary on like striving for perfection. Can't ever reach perfection.
And I think like chef and food culture actually,
which is like a really big thing. It's like I will say Nicholas Hoult at one point is like talking about like people love like sports and
I love that monologue by him. It's so great.
It's food. That's
food.
Those are the real artists, is the chefs. I've seen every episode of this one and stuff like that.
Chef's Table, which is
Chef's Table.
It's just an incredible movie, and I love how they structure it like you're at a restaurant.
Yeah, the courses.
A menu.
Yes,
and then I'm like, when something's not on the menu, like what happens when there's an anomaly or something goes wrong. and how characters deal with that and things like that, like perfectionists, and what happens when there's something that's not a part of their plan, and things like that. And yeah, it's just really incredibly devised. And yeah, check that out. Check out Glass Onion. There's just a lot of brilliant, really smartly written movies this year that I'm really excited to see.
So The Menu is my number one.
Yes,
yes.
Love it.
I watched it a few days ago, and I have had it in my head the whole time, like ever since I first watched it. I think what's really great about it is it has a great balance of having a message with also really great comedy that doesn't take away from the horrifying moments, which I love. And the whole idea of, like, as Chad and Carrie said, the dealing with perfection, but not just in the kitchen, but like also film, like
Yeah,
directors wanting to get the perfect
I thought
film,
of that too.
and they can't get it because nobody's perfect. And the way that they tied up at the end, I think was brilliant. I'm not going to spoil it, but I want to talk about this movie maybe next week. I really want to dive deep into it
Watch it, so sure.
because it is on HBO Max, so a lot of people have been able to see it at this point. Everything in this film just really worked for me. I think Anya Taylor-Joy is one of the best actresses working today.
Oh, good. I love her.
The way that she's able to not only act, with the monologue, but her face and her body, like, the way her body moves to different beats in the film is really great. I think Ray Fiennes deserves an Oscar for his performance. The way he's able to capture an audience and capture the people in the restaurant the same way he does the audience is fucking amazing. And by the way, I am sounding like Nicholas Holt's character in The Menu. Perfection. But yeah, this is my number one film.
Nice.
There we go. My number one film of 2022.
Perfect. And there's one aspect, and how this reminded me a little bit of Midsommar as well. So I guess think on that.
Oh,
okay,
yes.
You got it.
Yeah, I got it. It took me a second.
Yeah. But anyways, did you hear what I said, Hunter?
Kind of. I'm sorry.
I said there is one aspect of this movie that reminded me of Midsommar. And Carrie was like, "Wait, what?" At first, and then she was like, "Okay, I gotcha." we can talk about it later. I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. If we said anything, it would spoil it.
Yeah. All right. So that was
that was my number 5. So going on to your number 4.
My number 4 was Nope.
Okay.
Chad.
My number 4, Deadstream. This was one that, I believe I talked to Hunter about this a little bit, but this was one that I had kind of heard a name drop of it. Someone was like, "Oh, Deadstream," and then I finally was like, "Oh, that movie Deadstream." It was on Shudder, and it's a very unique movie. It's one that uses found footage in a very unique way, and that's why I had to do it. Very high. I put it at my number 4. So this is actually the last movie that's on my list that we're talking about here, because we've already talked about my 3, 2, and 1. But Deadstream is very unique. It's very funny. It's a horror comedy, but it's also very scary. And I think because it took the horror comedy and blended them so well, it's very like Evil Dead 2 in that way. And it surprises, and it's comedy. It's not afraid to kind of go out there and just be weird and strange. It's also kind of like a whole thing with, internet culture and cancel culture and stuff like that. So, it's not only just like a found footage thing, but it's like a streamer who goes to like a haunted house, just a haunted house. And, but it's a very big house. And, so he goes there, but he had recently been canceled. Something came out from his past, and he was like, "Oh, that's not a real, I paid my thing for that. I got banned from Twitch or whatever it was for a while. It's probably a different kind of streaming service, but he not streaming service, but streamer, whatever platform. And so that's like a whole theme with him is he's just trying to like score points with like his audience, but also like get out of this like doghouse that he was in, and like giving like some really great content to people. And yeah, it's just the turns it takes. There's like a whole story about like what the house is about and the scares and things like that. So it's not just scares for their own sake or whatever, but it all just works so well. It's so funny. The main guy is just like incredibly funny. Just the way he screams, like he'll just like kind of like show something. It'll show him go up to something. He'll see something weird, and he'll just go ah. It's just like that. Just his scream is just incredible, and everything he said, everything he did was just so funny. And I don't know, it's just a very unique movie. And I was just also surprised at how scary it ended up being. So I really dug this one, and a lot of like really creepy imagery. And I'm like, how they just like did all this stuff is just so incredible.
Yeah, this was my number 3.
Yes.
Like Chad said, there's not much more to say about it, other than it was one of the funniest movies I saw this year, and also one of the scariest movies I saw this year. And weirdly, so I don't think I've ever seen a movie where I am like laughing but also scared at like the exact same time. Like usually, there's a switch off between the comedy and the horror, and this was like I'm like scared but then also like immediately laughing, or like it is a really, really great movie. Definitely check this one out if like paranormal or found footage stuff scares you at all. This is definitely like one of the best ones this year.
And just the way they like did it like in a very inventive way, like some of the scares,
yeah.
I'm just like, if you think like something is possible, like they just like kind of like do it anyways, and then you're like, oh, that's so scary, but it makes sense because it's kind of like a supernatural thing. And it's just like the way the scares happen just catch you so off guard.
Yeah.
It's great.
Sorry, I had food in my mouth. My dinner just arrived. But yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember you telling me something about it. Is it on Shudder? You said
Yes.
Is it a Shudder original? Okay. Man, Shudder has a lot of great indie horror films. I've noticed.
Yeah.
So yeah, another one to add to the list. I'm just racking them up. I'm glad.
Dude, please check that one out immediately. You're gonna love it. It's so good, so funny, so scary.
All right, we're on to Carrie, correct?
For my number 4, yeah, because you just did
Yeah.
number 4, right?
Yep.
Okay, yep. My number 4. This is the last one on my list that we haven't talked about, and that is X.
Okay.
So for me, this one was I just connected with it a lot more than Pearl. I think maybe because our main characters are definitely more sympathetic. I think, or at least they're not just going around killing people. I don't know. I just love this one. I love the vibe of it, the 70s vibe. I love the ending. Like I thought it was so clever. And I loved just Mia Goth is really, really fantastic in this movie. And it's hard to say because I don't want to spoil anything in this movie, but I gotta say, like the ending just completely sold me. It's just like one of those types of endings that I really love.
This X is one that, like I've said multiple times on this show that I didn't connect with that much, and I was very surprised because I really wanted to love it. And since I really liked Pearl, I think this one does have like the most like potential to grow on me. Because I liked Pearl, I'm very excited to go back and rewatch this. We almost did, but we didn't because they're trying to cram a lot of like newer movies we haven't seen. So I'm excited to rewatch this. And prep, I guess, for Maxine. Probably end up checking that out at some point. But yeah, I think for me, there's a lot of the characters I didn't like, to be honest, especially like, Jenna Ortega's character. I just really didn't like. And it's because like also I've been trying to like Jenna Ortega because I know she's like a beloved she's like a scream queen. She's like in all the horror movies. She's great in like Wednesday. And I've been growing, especially after seeing the Fallout and Wednesday. She is pretty incredible. So I really want to go back with a lot of these new mindsets and rewatch it and see if things work for me more, because I just remember like watching it and going, wait, that's it? Like, what? There's not much to this movie. Like, why is so many people acting like it's 10 out of 10 their favorite movie of all time kind of deal? So I think that's just kind of where I came at it as well. But the good news is I really want to like this movie. I'm so down to rewatch this soon. I own it, so yeah. I'm glad that Carrie loves it, and I can't wait to rewatch.
All right, so X is my number 2 on my list. This is in the menu.
It should be y'all's 10, by the way, because it's X.
I see what you did there.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I mean, I love all the characters, but I would love to do like X and Pearl and Maxine as a trilogy episode. Maybe they'll all come out.
Okay.
Just to like discuss with you like what you didn't like about some of the characters that maybe I liked and maybe I saw differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to me, I think what's great about X is that it harkens back to like early 70s horror films like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and things like that. But what it does that those movies didn't do in the 70s is that it to me, it gave us more character development with characters that I actually liked and didn't want to see them get killed. And that when they do, I mean, I kind of feel bad for them. I kind of feel like I want them to survive. I want more of them to live. And that's what Ty West does, is he builds these characters not as, shitheads who just want to, hurt everybody and don't care about people. Like, he gives them all moments in the film and in the script where you can tell that they do care about, the old couple that are, letting them stay on the farmhouse. They want to help them out. They want to do stuff to help them because, they're paying to live there, but they want to, kind of pay it forward. And then so when they get stuck in a bad situation, you feel more bad for them. At least I did. I don't know. I just feel like, all the acting is great. I think, what's his name? Forgetting.
Kid Cudi.
Yeah, Kid Cudi. I was like, his rapper name is Kid Cudi, but I was like trying to think of his real name. But like
Cudi or something like that.
Yeah, I think he did amazing. I think Mia Goth as both Pearl and Maxine is fantastic because she has to play 2 different characters.
Yeah,
and it's
incredible,
especially like in the same scene too, in like the same shot. So it's a really good way of like, showing how great of an actress Mia Goth is. I think Brittany Snow is incredible in this film. I think she's hilarious. She has some great moments. I actually liked Jenna Ortega's character. I actually like, I love Jenna Ortega, of course. I just think all the cast did great. Lance Henriksen, I believe he plays the lead as well. Is that who it is? Or am I thinking about somebody else?
The lead?
Yeah.
Oh, Martin Henderson.
Martin Henderson. Sorry. He was also in The Ring, I believe, as the boyfriend of Naomi Watts' character.
Yeah, okay, yep.
So cool to see him back in horror again. There was so much about this movie I loved. I think the kills were gruesome and they were fun. It has a perfect balance of this really fun nostalgia kind of old school movie mixed with characters I actually love and don't want to see anything bad happen to them. So that was that's my whole list right there, with X being my number 2. Do you guys have any more on your list? Maybe 3, 2, or 1?
Well, we can maybe just go around and just say like what our
honorable mentions.
Well, I'll say like what our 3, 2, and 1s are.
Okay.
We just like recap our entire list if you want.
Yeah. I think that works. Yeah.
All right. Who starts?
Are we starting with honorable mentions first, then doing our list, or you want to do honorable mentions after we get done?
List and then honorable mentions.
All right, I'll start with this one.
Cool.
So my number 12 was Terrifier 2. Number 11, Halloween Ends. Number 10, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Number 9, The Black Phone. Number 8, Pearl. Number 7, Smile. Number 6, Barbarian. Number 5, Fresh. Number 4, Nope. Number 3, Scream. Number 2, X. And number 1, The Menu. Chad?
Oh yeah. Any honorable mentions for you, Hunter?
I'm trying to remember which ones I had on my list. I'll come back in a minute after you guys are done, so I can
Yep.
look at
my number 12 was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. 11, Scream, 2022. 10, Nope. 9, Smile. 8, Pearl. 7, Sissy. Just a lot of one-word titles here. 6, Halloween Ends. 5, excuse me, Barbarian. 4, Deadstream. 3, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. 2, The Menu, and 1, The Black Phone. Some honorable mentions. We already talked about Terrifier 2, Min, Hellraiser, Prey, Hatching, You Won't Be Alone, Fresh. Those were all kind of like on my list as things that I've seen. Other ones were Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge. We really enjoyed, or I really enjoyed Scare Package, the first one and this one too, because like just a lot of really great nods to horror films, a lot of really great comedy, and just very silly and just campy. And I just really dig it as like two horror comedies. And also the one guy's name is Rad Chad, and he owned a video store, and that's just incredible because my name is Chad. But yeah, also Resurrection was a kind of a weird movie that Carrie, I think, forgot about.
I didn't forget. It was the weirdest fucking movie.
A very weird movie, but what's her face, Carrie?
Rebecca Hall.
Rebecca Hall's in it, and she's incredible.
She was incredible in the movie.
And she's always incredible in these movies that people don't really check out. But check out that. Check out The Night House. A lot of her other non-horror movies. She's really incredible. Also, the one I think that is last on Carrie's list, Speak No Evil, was another Sundance film that we saw.
It's on Shudder.
And that one I think is really cool because it's divisive. I think a lot of people do really like this one, and Carrie really didn't. And then I remember we had like a really cool like conversation about it because I liked it a little more than she did, but I didn't like love it by any means. And I just think like it's another one with like people and their choices and decision making and things like that. And it's like, what if it could have went a different way? The butterfly effect, whatever. And Carrie and I just had a really interesting discussion. So yeah, watch it with like a friend or a partner, and you might have like a really cool conversation about it. Run, Sweetheart, Run is another one that we saw that was really cool. Another kind of like take on feminism. It went like in a weird direction I didn't know it was going to, which was interesting and I liked about it, but I didn't super love the film or anything. But it might be worth checking out. I really like the craft of it. White Noise, I'd say it's kind of barely a horror movie. It's Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig and Adam Driver and all that. Very kind of artsy film. Very smart. Some people might say it's kind of I forget the word, but pretentious or whatever. But they're one of the scares in the movie because it has one really, really great scare with like bed sheets that I thought was like really like incredible and came out of nowhere. Insane. And then that's it. Yep, that's everything. But yeah, check out White Noise. I thought it was very unique.
Carrie?
So my list was number 12, Hellraiser, number 11, Nanny, number 10, Prey, number 9, Men, number 8, You Won't Be Alone, number 7, Hatching, number 6, Scream, number 5, The Menu, number 4, X, number 3, Deadstream, number 2, Bodies, 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 and number 1, Nope. I don't really have any more honorable mentions except to say yeah, Resurrection is I don't know if it's the weirdest movie I've ever seen, but it might be. It's definitely the weirdest movie I saw this year.
Really great performance from Tim Roth too.
Rebecca Hall and Tim Roth gave very great performances in a wild.
And this is from a person who ranked Men pretty high.
Yeah,
Carrie,
no, this Resurrection is way crazy.
not weirder than Men.
That gets me very, very
The
intrigued.
resurrection is way weirder than men.
No, I don't.
In my
agree.
opinion. Okay.
I need to rewatch Resurrection.
And Speak No Evil, yeah. Actually, I've heard a lot of people actually really like Speak No Evil. Yeah, I hated it. Like I said earlier, it has to work for me on the surface level and on the metaphor
Mhm.
level. And this, I think, does not work on the surface level at all. It's all metaphor.
It doesn't work as well as Barbarian. I would say
Yeah.
on a scale.
Yeah.
I also really
and also it's just a very frustrating movie. I think
It
it's one
is
of those
kind of,
things
yeah.
where I don't like cringe stuff, and I think this is either cringy or like the cousin of cringe. Like
it deals with like relationships and like strangers meeting and like what's appropriate when you
Mhm.
stay at someone's house and stuff like that. The other one that I forgot is Mad God. It was a very unique
Oh yeah.
movie. It's kind of animated, but there's like some live action aspects to it. It's another Shudder one.
I think it's stop motion. Isn't
It's
it?
a stop motion. Yeah, it's like really cool. There's a lot of really great animation, imagery that they have in it. The scares come from the imagery. It's just very creepy and unsettling and stuff like that. The story didn't super work for me, so I didn't love this one, but I thought the artistry behind it was incredible and it's very unique. Check that
Yeah,
one out.
if you've seen Wolf House, it's kind
Oh
of
my
reminds me
God.
of that, where it's like someone's
Incredible.
painstakingly. This took him, the filmmaker, years, and I think maybe like
Ooh.
decades to make this movie, like painstaking, because it is all this stop motion and it's all like so intricate. But I like Chad said, I didn't particularly love the story. I actually like didn't really follow it very well. But it is all visual and a few kind of like
creepy sounds though,
creepy
too, like
sounds,
babies
creepy
crying.
images, like stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
it's very interesting. You can tell it was like really. I didn't love it, but I do really respect it.
Yes.
Like a passion project.
Yes. Oh yeah.
So, Chad, what was your number one again? I'm sorry.
Number one was The Black Phone.
I love how like we each have different number ones, but like they're all like different genres of horror.
Yeah.
Like you have the alien invasion, like action horror with Nope. You have like the supernatural, like Stephen King ish movie with the Black Phone, and then mine is just like this pretentious, like like Hereditary, Midsommar, like foodie film. Like
Yeah.
just goes to show you how like
Great.
different horror was in 2022, man.
Yeah.
I think we all three had our number ones on our list, though, just in different.
I
Yeah,
didn't
different
have
orders.
Black Phone,
Oh,
but
that's
like I
'cause
said, on a technicality,
technicality, it's 'cause
it
you're
would have
insane.
been
That's
on my
alright.
list otherwise.
I will say, and I'm gonna get a lot of people mad about this. My
That's
honorable
it.
mention, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 on Netflix.
Right? We didn't see
That
it.
We
that
didn't
movie is
so.
stupid.
Prioritize it because we heard it's very bad.
Yeah.
The movie is stupid, but I will say some of the funniest and some of the like inventive gore I've seen since Terrifier 2. When it comes to like just mere like pure insanity of like gore for Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, we are 2 hours and 20.
Yeah, you're right, Hunter.
All right, so that's where we're going to end it. Chad and Carrie, where can we find you online?
Check out my channel, Chadwick Webb. We rank things. Check out my other channel, Picture This, over the Dill Pickle Movie Network. We do a lot of Oscar talk. And then also my buddy Dylan is doing in February, I think like the 15th or the 14th, he's doing like a 24-hour live stream, like subathon type of thing, which is doing a lot of different stuff like games, trivia, reviews, drafting stuff. So a lot of really fun stuff over that he's doing, trying to get more subscribers and things like that. So check out that channel. A lot of really great stuff on there. So that's it.
Carrie?
I don't have anything.
Same thing every week. I like it. All right, guys. So if you did enjoy this, hit all that button, subscribe to Nerd Entertainment Network down below. You gotta watch it, so you guys soon.